Hey everybody, it's Read Comics 81, and this is going to be a different kind of video. Um, this is going to be a video that focuses on buying multiple copies of books, and it's something that I do quite a bit, and it's just some thoughts that I have on collecting and accumulating books versus hoarding. Um, I just want to be clear right off the bat that I am not trying to say that there is any certain way that people should collect comics. I believe that you should collect the way you want to collect. And if that means buying multiple copies, then by all means, if that's what makes you happy, then that's what you should do. As long as you can afford it, and as long as you have the room in your home to store the books or elsewhere to store the books. So, I'm going to go ahead and start showing some books as I talk. And, there are a few different books that I have in my collection that no matter what, if I find them and they are cheap and they are in high grade, then I am going to go ahead and purchase them. And this is one of them right here. This is Badger number 1. And it's just a character that I like. It reminds me of my childhood. And also, someday this character might appear in a movie or something. And if he does, then I'm set. But every time I see this book, if it's $1 or $2 and it's in high grade, I buy it. Now, do I need another copy of this book? Absolutely not. I need another copy of this book like I need a hole in my head. But it's just a compulsion I have to buy certain books. And it's incredibly difficult for me to not buy these books when I come across them for cheap. And recently, I've been thinking about my childhood, and this compulsion to collect goes way, way, way back for me. All the way back to the time when I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and I collected Hot Wheels cars. And me and all my friends in the neighborhood, we'd have Hot Wheels cars, and some of us would have some Matchbox too, but mostly Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels were cooler than Matchbox. So we had Hot Wheels cars, and the more Hot Wheels cars you had, the cooler you were. And I'm pretty sure that's where my collecting began, which is a normal thing for kids to collect toys and little cars and things like that. But my collecting took an interesting turn back then, and I started collecting other things. I lived in a neighborhood where there were sadly, a lot of alcoholics, and so there were always like beer bottle caps on the ground, and bottle caps from pop bottles and stuff like that too. But for some reason, I started collecting bottle caps, and every day I'd go out and I'd look around the ground, I'd walk up and down the street, and I'd pick up bottle caps, as long as they weren't too bent from being popped open, then I would collect them. Even back then, I cared about condition, apparently. But, before too long, I had a whole shoebox full of bottle caps. And my mom, she let me keep them, and she didn't see any harm in it. But there came a time when I didn't want to collect bottle caps anymore. I switched over to... Actually, I did keep collecting bottle caps, but I also, in addition to bottle caps, started collecting, and this is kind of gross, cigarette butts. Because not only were a lot of the people in my neighborhood alcoholics, but they were also chronic cigarette smokers. So there was no shortage of cigarette butts on the ground. So one day I remember I came home with my pockets stuffed with cigarette butts. And my mom wasn't too happy about it. That's where she drew the line. She made me go outside and empty my pockets of all the cigarette butts, and she told me that I was not allowed to collect cigarette butts. So, yeah, which I'm glad she stopped me there because who knows what would have been next. But anyway, I was a little upset about the cigarette butts, but not for too long because shortly after that, I was walking down the sidewalk in my neighborhood one morning and I saw a big cardboard box out by the side of the road where the garbage bags were, waiting for the garbage to come and collect it. And this box was full of DC comic books. I remember there being Superman books. I remember there being some Aquaman, some Batman, but mostly it was Wonder Woman. And this box was pretty big, and I was a pretty small kid. But I managed to drag that box all the way home and into the house. And I remember being so happy that I had these comic books. But there was also a moldy, musty smell on them. So they had probably been pulled out of somebody's basement or something like that. And my mom didn't let me keep them. She told me that they smelled horrible and that I had to take them back where I got them from. So I remember dragging the box back down the street and putting it back on the curb where I had found it. And I was really upset because I thought those comic books were so cool. Even though most of them were Wonder Woman, I still wanted them, but I had to listen to my mom, so I took them back. And yeah, and that is actually where the root of my comic book collecting began. Let's see if I can fix this lighting here. And I was so upset about having to take these comic books back that my mom actually went to the drugstore and bought me a comic book. And that was Spidey Super Stories number 49. And I loved that book so much. And that is when I decided that I wanted to start collecting comic books. So, anyway, this is my third collection of comic books. And I did not used to purchase multiple copies of books. But these days, as you can see, I do that. And there are different reasons for why I'll purchase multiple copies of a book. You've got your DC logo books, logo variant books, you've got newsstands, and you've got direct. So there are different versions of each book that you can collect, but like here I've got 2 DC Universe logo books. Do I need these? Not really. I mean, one would probably suffice. And I've got 4 directs, so I really don't need these 3. I mean, the DC Universe logo books are cool, so I can see keeping those. And 1 direct and 1 newsstand, and there you go. You got a nice little set. So, but why do I feel compelled to buy more and more copies of a book that I really don't need? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just wired that way. And I'm thinking that it might be just something that is hereditary, because collecting, aka hoarding, actually runs in my family. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my Uncle Paul, who is no longer with us, but he was my mom's brother. And oh man, he was a collector to the point where it was a problem. And he used to, like, his big dream was owning his own secondhand store. And when I was in my 20s, I remember seeing him walking down the street because he didn't have a car, and he had his laundry with him. He had been coming back from the laundromat, and I pulled over and asked him if he wanted to ride, and he got in, and I drove him to his apartment in downtown Flint, and he invited me inside, and I went inside, and there was just piles of stuff everywhere. And, I mean, just all kinds of weird stuff. Like, the thing that I really remember is that he had 5 or 6 brand new VCRs still in the box, and but he didn't own a TV. So I thought that was extremely weird, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, the reason I bought all these is because they were on sale, and it was a really good deal, so I bought them. So, I mean, spoken like a true hoarder, right? I mean, it's a good deal. I got to get as many as possible. I got to bring them home. So, yeah, so I can kind of relate to that when it comes to buying comic books that I really don't need, multiple issues. But my uncle's issue was like way worse than that. I mean, he got to the point to where later in his life, he was actually sleeping in a park under a tent because he could not afford rent for an apartment because all of his money went to monthly payments on these storage units that he had where he kept all of his stuff. So he cared more about his stuff than he actually did about himself. And yeah, I don't think I would ever get to the point to where I care more about my comics than myself, but that's just an extreme example. And also, my mom has experienced hoarding tendencies. When my stepdad passed away, I mean, she never did before, but when my stepdad passed away about 16 years ago, she started going to rummage sales and yard sales and things like that, and thrift stores, and just bringing home all kinds of stuff. And she lived in South Carolina, and when I went to visit her, I was shocked at how much stuff was packed into her single wide trailer. And it was just like you see on Hoarders. It was just paths through the house with giant piles of stuff on both sides, and there was a path to the kitchen, there was a path to the living room, there was a path to the bathroom. And the spare bedroom where my brother had lived before he moved out, that was packed to the ceiling with stuff. And she also had what she called the teddy bear room, which was the other spare bedroom. It was packed with teddy bears. I mean, packed, like up to your waist, packed with teddy bears. And they were on the walls and everything. But it was like one of those rooms where you see like people jump into the balls, like the foam rubber balls or whatever. It was like that, but it was all teddy bears. And yeah, I mean, she got therapy for that, and she's doing a lot better now. But she still goes to thrift stores. She still goes to rummage sales, and she still brings home a lot of stuff that she doesn't need. She tries to give it away to people. She's really kind, but she has a ton of stuff. And she has rummage sales like once a month. She lives down in Florida, so the weather's nice year round pretty much. So she can have a rummage sale once a month, but she doesn't sell anywhere near the amount of stuff that she brings in. So her garage has all kinds of stuff in it, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I've just been thinking about this a lot and how it runs in my family, and wondering if I am a collector or if I'm a hoarder, or is the line between the two blurred to where it's a little bit of both? And I'm sure everybody's situation is different. Guys out there that buy multiple copies of books. This is FF278. This is the one I have the most copies of. And yeah, but ultimately I feel like whatever the reason for buying multiple copies, as long as it's not hurting anybody else, as long as you have the room to store your books, as long as buying comics doesn't get you into financial trouble, as long as you pay your bills first and then, spend money on what you want next, then it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, I've got so many copies of this book. Some are direct, some are newsstands, some are Canadian price variants, some are Mark Jeweler variants. They won't even fit on here. There's so many of them. But yeah, I mean, I know there are other guys out there that buy multiple copies of certain books. And, if that's what makes you happy, like I said, more power to you. There's a Canadian price variant right there. But I just wanted to sort of go over this topic with you guys. And what do you guys think? Do you guys buy multiple copies? And if you do, what are your reasons for buying multiple copies? And how do you see it? Do you see it as um, like hoarding or collecting or both? What do you think about this topic? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you made it this far into the video, thanks for watching. And I will see you all next time. Happy hunting, everybody.